Hello, Texas Stonewall. I am Robert Vargas III. I get the good fortune of being the president of this amazing organization. We are here to advocate and fight for the LGBTQ plus community all across Texas. As you all know, we are in the middle of some really exciting primary battles. We've got races all the way up from U.S. Senate to our gubernatorial races. Last Sunday, we spoke to all of our gubernatorial candidates as well as our lieutenant governor candidates. Tonight, we're talking to a bunch of our judges. One of the most exciting things about Texas politics is that we get to elect our judges all the way from Justice of the Peace to the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Texas. And so tonight, we've got several folks that are joining us. We've got Omar Narvaez, who is running for Justice of the Peace out of Dallas County. We've got Judge Melanie Lira from Bexar County Court at Law Number 7, Holly Taylor, who's running for Court of Criminal Appeals here in Texas. And then, of course, Justice Maggie Ellis is joining us. She's running to be the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Texas. So joining us first this evening, I should say, to tell us all about the court and what it is that he's doing in Dallas County is Omar Narvaez. How are you doing today, sir?
Doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for
I just finished block walking, so
you're in the middle of an election, right?
I am in the middle of the primary right now as we speak. It is an open bench for Justice of the Peace, Precinct 5, Place 2, where the incumbent is not running for re-election. He is the only Justice of the Peace we've ever had in Precinct 5, Place 2 when he first won this precinct that was created back in 1994. And he has decided not to run for re-election this year. He told me he was not retiring. So I say exactly what he said, which is he's just not running for re-election. And it became a perfect opportunity for my community as I rolled off the city council. A lot of people in my community came to me and really had to recruit me to run and said that I was their champion at City Hall and they wanted me to be their champion for justice in the Justice of the Peace Court, where we know real life, regular, everyday working people, real life meets the court system is the most utilized court in the entire system in the state of Texas.
So what does that mean? So what is a Justice of the Peace? What do you all do?
So the Justice of the Peace, what they mainly deal with is issues that face everyday working class people. A lot of evictions, debt settlement, credit cards. They take care of traffic citations, not in Dallas County, but most other counties, they deal with truancy. They deal with traffic signal stops and different stops in different municipalities. And a small claims court is what I call it. It's the people's court. So attorneys, lawyers are not necessary in order to go to the JP court. And most people, though, know the JP court as where you go to get married. The Justice of the Peace, does a lot of the marriages as well, but that's actually on the side of the actual job. So it's my hopefully soon to be colleague. Last 3 years, she disposed of 25,000 cases in 3 years. That means showing up for work and making sure that you take care of the people's business and that the due process is done for everybody, that they have their day in court, and that means you got to show up for work.
I once heard that the reason we have the various precincts, so I'm a Texas history nerd, and I once heard that the reason we have in most counties, 4, in Dallas you have 5, JPs and commissioner districts is because justice should not be more than one day's horse ride away. So I should, as a farmer, be able to ride my horse, go to the JP, get justice, and come back on my horse within a day, which is why we have the system that we do.
That's pretty, I would say probably very accurate. I'm going to trust you on that one. But I will tell you that my precinct, the way it's been drawn, the way it currently is, I don't know if anybody could do a 1 day's horse ride today. So definitely a 1-car ride, but maybe a train ride, but not a horse ride, I don't think anymore.
So you served on council. Tell us what made you switch from council to Justice of the Peace, because some people might think it's a very different role.
It's definitely a very different role. I've been learning a lot while I've been on the campaign trail. I always had run in a nonpartisan races, so city council, and then before that, the county school board. And now I'm running in a partisan race and then for a judgeship. And I'm not an attorney, I'm not a lawyer. So I'm very different from many of the other folks that are running for JP. There's 5 of us in this race. I'm the only LGBT person in this race. And the other cool part for me is that I have real life and real world experience. I've got the legal background as far as having to work with the law and learning the law, from being a city council member for 8 years and then on the school board. I also worked at Lambda Legal during my career time for 7 years before I ended up on the city council. So I did a lot of know your rights, learning how to navigate the Constitution. And I also was the policy advocate for the state of Texas. So we wrote a lot of different bills and amendments and helped out with the state representatives and the state senators, either trying to stop bad things from happening, or every once in a while we were able to get a small victory and maybe get something positive to happen. So I've got a lot of experience with the law and how it works. And at the end of the day, there's a lot going on, but it's really important to me and my community that they have somebody who is like them, knows them, is from the community, and what better than their former council member who knows every thing that's going on. But the hard part is I feel like I have a gag on me, right? Because there's a lot of huge issues going on in our society right now. And I'm like, well, because the judicial ethics doesn't allow me to comment or make endorsements or say things that I normally would be out in the streets with my megaphone and bullhorn, and my signs saying something. So that's been a big difference for me. It's been a change, but at the same time, we want to make sure that everybody has a chance at justice. And that's what my life's work has been, is fighting for people to have a chance at opportunity. And just as the peace has that ability, because you can make the difference between somebody keeping their home or losing it, and or also maybe keeping their job or losing it. And so those are some of the things that I want to change in our court. And my level is making sure that we meet people where they are. So bringing in virtual court, having night court, weekend court if we have to, having resource fairs so that people can get the resources before they end up in JP court, and a plethora of other things, as I hope that we'll be able to modernize the JP court, because we have a lot of opportunity in my court.
So I have to ask, obviously, Texas Stonewall, we are the LGBT caucus of the Texas Democratic Party. In about a minute or so, tell me, what has that experience been like for you as an out elected official, as a council member, now running for JP? Tell me a little bit about that.
Before I ever got anything going, I was a member of the Dallas Stonewall Democrats, or the Stonewall Democrats of Dallas, and eventually became the president in 2011, 12, and 13. So, I have a lot of experience being an out, loud, and proud person. And I was also the second out person ever in the history of Dallas to win a seat on the city council, and the first person of color to win a seat. So I've never hidden who I am. I've always been, out loud and proud, and I'm unapologetically unashamed of being out loud and proud. I show up, let people know who I am, and people resonate with that because they know it's not an agenda. I'm not pushing anything. I'm just pushing for fairness. And that's what I've always been about, is making sure everybody has an opportunity, and that government can work, whichever system you're in, if we work together and we make sure that everybody has that, like I said earlier, chance at opportunity.
The beauty that we have in the United States is we have the ability to create a government for the people and by the people. And
yes,
I appreciate.
And the JP court is the people's court.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Best of luck in your election. Is there anything you'd like to say to folks before you head out?
If you have an opportunity, go to omarfordallas.com, drop $1, drop $5. This is the hardest part, is raising money. And I can win this without a runoff. I just got to be able to get all the tools and resources I need. So if you got anything out there and you're able to do it, please do. And if you know anybody in Dallas County, in my precinct, make sure that you tell them, vote for Omar Narvaez. I'm number 4 on the ballot of 5 people.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. You have a great night.
Thank you so much for having me. Love you all.
Man, what a great opportunity we have in Texas. I was telling some folks the other day as I was at a conference, I may be gay and from Texas, but we have some phenomenal people that represent our community all across the state. So it's so much, we have so much fun here at Texas Stonewall with the ability to introduce them to just the greater community. Another phenomenal human being that I've gotten to know over the years is Judge Melanie Lira. She presides over Bexar County Court at Law number 7. How are you, Judge Lira?
Good, good. How are you doing? Thank you for having me.
Man, we're doing great, but you have a lot going on in your world. You're on the ballot. Your family's growing, which is so exciting.
Yes, I do appreciate the Zoom because I am a week away from giving birth, so this is really convenient for me.
I'm just so thankful that you would make time and space, that you and your wife would allow that, because I know that, having a baby and a family is just such a big deal. I am thankful for the plants that God has put in my life. But I celebrate you having a beautiful child. I can't wait to meet her, hear him, whatever the child becomes. But I wanted to say thank you for joining us. Judge, tell us, you're on your second term, is that correct?
I am currently on the ballot for my second term, but luckily we are unopposed on both the Democratic and the Republican end for the primaries and the general election. So it means I'm a shoo-in with just one vote coming up in March, which is fantastic.
That must mean that the people like you and you're hardworking. I know the judges that usually get a lot of opponents are always, always a little challenging.
Yeah, well, I have a really awesome team. We've worked really, really hard since we took the bench in January of 23 to be able to tackle the backlog and the issues that we had seen in that court prior to me being elected, and making sure we created a lot of efficiency in that court, which is really our job, is to make sure everything is running as smoothly as possible and have more foresight than hindsight, in those aspects.
That's interesting. More foresight than hindsight. That needs to be on a bumper sticker somewhere, at least a button.
I'll look into it.
Hey, Judge, so what made you decide, you're living your life, you're a lawyer, having a fabulous practice. What made you decide to run for a county court bench?
So I really did not anticipate running so early in my career. I was and still am the youngest person on the bench in Bexar County. And I think somebody just beat me recently in Texas on age-wise, but it didn't come without its hardships. And I put about 6 months of thought into whether I wanted to even run for this. But this court it looked like it was going unopposed. The judge at the time was just not working. I myself had a bunch of cases in that court with other mitigating circumstances, like non-citizens who were facing charges, and we were not able to move the docket and move the cases in the way that we needed to in order to get some kind of due process and justice. So I sat on it, thought about it, talked to some mentors, and here we are.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And tell me a little bit about the court. What is a county court at law? We just heard about a justice of the peace court, but what does a county court at law do?
So county court at law is hearing criminal cases at a misdemeanor level, so class A and B. So anything above a speeding ticket kind of situations, we don't hear any of those. We're not going to get into that nuance, but yes. So A and Bs. And so my court specifically is a family violence court. So we are designated to hear domestic violence cases, whether it's between significant others, family relationships, even roommate relationships. That is what we are designated as, specifically in County Court 7. But the other 12 courts also hear what we call the Criminal Trial Division, which is like DWIs, possession of marijuanas, theft, those kinds of situations as well, as long as you're within the class A or B. So not as intense as a district judge, which I am not. They will hear more of those intense felony charges, the little, the fun stuff you like to watch on SVU, that's going to be them. And kudos to those guys because that's really hard work and a lot of media attention.
So a district court judge, and just because I know we don't have a district court judge joining us, but many times it's like district court judge number 287, right? Or county court at law number 7, county court at law number 14. What do those numbers mean, right? Does it mean that I can only vote if I live in your district?
No, and that's a great question because it's a common misconception that, oh, so if I'm in District 7, I can vote for you. So we're county court wide, district court wide. As long as you're a registered Bear County voter, you can vote in any of those races. For county courts, it's just in the order in which the court was created. So, we're going to be seeking a couple new courts in the future. Then that would be court number 16 and 17, theoretically. So that's how that works. So you can vote in any of our races, in whatever ticket that you run on, which we hope you run on a Dem ticket, of course.
If you're
But
watching this, you're probably a Democrat.
yes, you probably are, and I hope so.
And well, let's talk about that. What you have a family, you're starting a family, but was that the reason you ran as a Democrat? Like what spurred that
Oh
desire?
God. The reason I ran as a Democrat, I think there was no other choice in life other than me to be a Democrat.
Mhm.
I am the firstborn citizen in my family. I
Mm.
am a Latina. I'm Jewish. I'm gay. I'm like all of the otherness of the poster child, check boxes there. So there was really no other group that was better going to be suited for the kind of beliefs that I have. I have a huge humanitarian background before I even went to law school. And then I did a lot of activism work, both when I was an attorney. I was an immigration defense attorney as well as a criminal defense attorney. I did a lot of that cross area, which is also why we've created a specialized docket in my court, which has been really successful. But there's just no other route. There would be no other route for me to go other than this route.
So in Bear County, we have a lot of specialty courts. You touched a little bit about that. I know that like Judge Key has like the animal cruelty docket. He kind of deals with that. So is it that you can't practice or you just kind of specialize?
Meaning, so what we have done, so I made some changes when I came in. As I mentioned, County Court 7 was predominantly family violence court. We would only hear that kind of cases in this
Mhm.
court. I found from being a defense attorney and from being a judge very quickly, it's not efficient. So what we did is what we called as companion cases. So a lot of people get arrested for one or two things at a time. One would be CTD, one would be family violence. We bring them in. So while we are family violence, we hear a little bit of everything. In
Okay.
about April of 2024, so a little over a year on the bench, I created what we called a Padilla compliance docket, which is a non-citizen docket. So if you're not a citizen, you could be a resident or all the way to completely undocumented, but you're facing a criminal charge, you can ask to be transferred into this court where we have somebody, who is an immigration attorney there to help advise the individual of consequences as well as the state, so they can all the parties are aware and informed, therefore avoiding appellate issues moving forward.
Okay.
And we have seen hundreds of people moved over into that docket, and we did it at no cost to the county.
That's amazing. That's awesome. It sounds like you're just really working hard, and we appreciate that, especially the efficiency for the taxpayers, right? The more efficient the courts are, the faster we process people through the system. So I think that's really important. Let me ask you, Judge, changing gears a little bit. Obviously, we're the Texas Stonewall Democrats, so we always like to talk a little bit about your coming out story. How has that experience been for you, being not just a lawyer, but deciding, hey, as an out and proud individual, I'm going to run for a bench? I mean, did that play a factor in your election, or has that affected you in the bench at all?
I no. I had such a hard coming out story. I came out very young at 16, and have stayed out my entire life. So it's been more of that upfront shock that by the time I hit this age of my life in this area, I had such thick skin that it really didn't. And I know that is kind of controversial even in its own, because there's so many individuals of our community that are suffering just from being within their own skin, which is how they look or how they identify or
Mhm.
pronouns. So sometimes I hate sharing that as a judge. It hasn't been that for me. I get called straight passing a lot, which is kind of offensive. But my thing is, I was very fortunate. My wife and I, we just got married back in December. So very recently, we're welcoming our very first child. So I am very much out, very much part of the queer community. But unfortunately, I like my dresses, right? I guess if that's a good or bad thing for people. But I have been shown a lot of respect. I think, if anything, being on the bench, being a woman is really hard on the bench. And that's where I felt a little bit of the push. And of course, like I said, I was the youngest judge, and coming in with a few years of experience compared to some of my colleagues
Mm,
really made me a target for, let's see if she really knows what she's doing. And it
mm.
came with the job description. I expected it. You just got to have the tough skin and move forward. But it is a great position to be in, to know that you can be a role model to other people who feel like there's no way I could run for position because I am gay and I don't want to have to hide that part of me, or whatever the case may be. You can show them it doesn't have to be like that, or at least guide them through it. And that's a beautiful place.
Well, I love that, and I love that you and your wife are living out loud. I'm excited to meet the baby. I hope I get to meet the
Yes.
baby once the baby's born. Do we know what we're having? Are we not telling
We are
anybody?
having a girl. Yes, we are. And when she's
Oh.
nice and ripe, we'll bring her out to the public.
I hear Roberta's a fabulous name. No, just teasing.
I'll keep
No,
it in mind.
I'm joking. Please don't name your child Roberta.
Oh my gosh.
Too
You never
funny.
know.
Well, Judge, thank you so much for spending time with us this evening. Is there anything you want folks to know before you go?
Please get out there and vote. We are in crucial times, all the way from the top to the bottom. Go register. You have a few days left to register to vote, and it just has to get done. Know your candidates. Speak for your values. Otherwise, you lose your rights.
All right. Thank you so much, Judge Lita. You have a great night.
Thank you too.
Take care.
Bye bye.
What a fabulous evening we're having tonight, getting to know all these amazing human beings and the work that they're doing in support of our community all across Texas. It's been great. We spoke to Omar Narvaez, who's running for Justice of the Peace. Judge Lita told us a little bit about our county courts. Now we have with us Holly Taylor, who's running for the Court of Criminal Appeals. And I have to tell you all, I'm excited to learn about this because I actually don't know what this court does. So how are you, Holly?
I'm great. Can you hear me?
We can. You're doing great. Thank you so much
Wonderful.
for being here. I was just saying, I have no idea what a Court of Criminal Appeals does. So tell us about that.
I'm happy to tell you about that. But first, I just want to say how excited I am for Judge Lira and her wife. He is this close, and it's just really cool. I'm excited for them. But yes, my name is Holly, and I'm running for the Court of Criminal Appeals. So it may not surprise most people that Texas is unusual in its court system. And that is that we have actually at the top of our justice system, we have two Supreme Courts. Some people have referred to our judicial system as a two-headed monster because unlike most states that have one Supreme Court at the top of their justice system, we have two. And there's only one other state in the nation. Robert, do you know what it is that has this?
I don't know.
You know, it's Oklahoma.
Well, I mean, if Oklahoma's doing it,
yeah, that's right. Right. Anyway, so it's Oklahoma and Texas. We have two Supreme Courts. So what we call the Texas Supreme Court, they actually only handle civil appeals, things like lawsuits, contract disputes, that sort of thing. What we would think of kind of in the traditional, movies and stuff, Supreme Court that deals with, critical like death penalty cases and stuff like that. That's our Court of Criminal Appeals. And that's the court I'm running for. And this court is considering really big issues. Not only do they handle every death penalty case that is it happens in the whole state. Those don't go to our regional courts of appeals. They also have a discretionary petition system where they take the really big issues that are going to have a big impact on the jurisprudence of the state. And they handle thousands of writs every year. And those can contain really important claims like actual innocence claims. And so through all of this work, they have one of the biggest caseloads of any appellate court in the nation. And that doesn't count the caseload of the Texas Supreme Court. That's just the Court of Criminal Appeals.
Now, does this court run parallel, or do they have to go to you, then it goes to the Supreme Court? How does that work?
So it runs parallel. So what it is we have all of the Justice of the Peace and municipal courts. We heard from Omar today. And then above that, we've got the county courts and the district courts, our trial courts. There's hundreds of these. And then above that, we have 15 regional courts of appeals. Well, one is, it's kind of confusing. So let's set that aside. 14 regional courts of appeals across the state. In San Antonio, you have the 4th Court of Appeals. In Austin, we have the 5th Court of Appeals. And those handle both civil and criminal appeals from the trial courts. If they want to go above that to get another decision. If they're not happy with the decision they get in those regional courts of appeals, if it's a civil case, it goes to the Texas Supreme Court. If it's a criminal case, it goes to the Court of Criminal Appeals. So they're working parallel.
Okay. I see. So you separate the types of cases between that. And your court is, the court you're running for is a statewide court.
Yes.
So anybody in Texas can vote for you.
That's right. And in fact, we are going to all 254 counties.
You've been working hard. I've seen you out on the trail.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So Holly, I know we jumped right into what the court was. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Why did you decide to jump in this race?
Sure. So I am a criminal law attorney. I've spent over 25 years practicing criminal law, and I'm board certified in criminal appellate law, which should tell you that I am a total law nerd. But the reason that I'm running for this court is not because I'm a student of the law. The reason that I'm running for this court is having spent most of my career as a prosecutor. I'm a criminal defense attorney now, but I spent over 17 years as a prosecutor. I worked on all kinds of cases. I worked on government corruption cases. I worked on civil rights violations. I worked on fraud cases, but I spent a lot of time prosecuting violent crimes, murders, rapes, child abuse. And through that work, I kind of felt like I was keeping my community safe. And then over the last 5 years, I've also been working with the Conviction Integrity Unit in Travis County to investigate wrongful conviction claims. And going into that with a prosecutorial background, I didn't really expect we were going to have a lot of wrongful convictions in our county, but I was wrong. And it hit me really hard when our investigations uncovered multiple wrongful convictions in our county. And a few of those were cases that I had worked on as a prosecutor. So I fought like heck to get justice for those people, but it helped me see. Did I cut out there?
Nope, you're good.
No? Okay. It helped me see that we have cracks in the foundation of our criminal justice system. And I sort of saw it through new eyes, and I understand now how critical it is that we ensure that these claims of wrongful conviction are evaluated fairly and thoroughly by judges who are clear-headed, who operate without any kind of outside influence, that are going to look at things based on the rule of law, dig down and get to the true facts and science. So I think that's really critical, and that's why I'm so passionate about running for this court.
Now Texas is huge. I mean, there's 254 counties. You said you're going to be visiting all of those counties. What's that experience been like for you?
You know, it's been wonderful. It's been, I think we live in a time where there's a lot of hate speech online. People are very hostile to each other. I think we've all felt impacted by that at one time or another. And so getting out there and actually shaking hands and talking to people in a lot of these rural areas across the state has really been invigorating, because I've had an opportunity to connect with people and hear their real world concerns and realize that, to some extent, most Texans really do have big hearts. They care about other people, and we have that connection. And when I'm talking to them and hearing their concerns about the justice system, it's been wonderful, actually. And I have hope. I really do, for 2026.
I absolutely hear you on that. We had some really amazing wins recently, and so I am just so excited. We just had Taylor Remmett that won last night in a reliably red district, and I believe that's hope for our state, right? There's a lot of folks that are running statewide, and I feel like there is definitely hope now more than ever to flip this state and flip seats that we historically have not flipped. So I appreciate you running and jumping on board with us and just making sure that our voice is heard across Texas. Holly, is there anything you want folks to know before you head out?
Well, I mean, we're talking here in the statewide Stonewall Dems forum here. And so I do want to say that I have I am, a straight woman, but I am an ally.
You're an ally. We love having our allies.
I am an ally from a very young age. And for me personally, issues impacting the civil and rights of everyone are very, very important. Three of my four kids are LGBTQ plus.
Did you say three of your four kids?
Three of my four kids.
Oh,
yes.
my Lord. There's going to be a lot of mamas praying for you. Three of four.
Oh, you know what? They're amazing. They're wonderful. I stand by them 100%, and I love them just like they are. I'm super proud of them, and I am proud to be an ally. That's what I want to say.
Well, that's awesome. I appreciate it. It is important to have our allies. You know, when I ran for president of Stonewall, that was one of the first questions I got was, well, do you have to be gay to go to your meetings? I said, no, we welcome everyone, friends and allies. So we appreciate you always being an advocate. And I know, you know, I've seen you throughout the state as you've been traveling. I run into you in the most random places. I think the last time I saw you was like in Wilson County or something. And I'll probably see you in Uvalde this week if you're going out there, right? And so we appreciate everything that you do for our community and standing up and just being a witness for us. We appreciate it.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you so much. You take care. Bye now.
You too. Bye-bye.
Wow. What an amazing story. I can't imagine. I had no idea. I've known her for all these years. Didn't know she had three out of four of her children are LGBTQ plus. That is amazing. I love it. So we are going to keep on moving tonight. We've got one more candidate joining us tonight. It's Justice Maggie Ellis. She is running for Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Texas. That is phenomenal. How are you doing, Justice Ellis?
I am doing great. Thank you so much, Robert, for the opportunity to visit with y'all tonight. And oh my gosh, I'm sitting here listening to all the other judges and judicial candidates. What an amazing group.
Yeah, isn't it fabulous? We have some really amazing human beings that are running for office in Texas, and I appreciate you being one of those folks. Tell us, Justice Ellis, a little bit about yourself. Why did you decide to take on this amazing task?
Well, and so I'll give you my campaign spiel.
Sure.
So I came to the law from a very different path. I grew up very transient. We were homeless when I was a child. I was in and out of schools. I went to 8 elementary schools in 3 different states while we were in school. And then when I was 10 years old, my mom stopped taking us to school altogether. When I was 11 and a half, we were living in our car in New Mexico, and I begged her to put me back in school. She drove me home to Texas and left me at a gas station 2 miles from my father's house. And she gave me $5 and drove away, and I didn't see her again for 12 years. At 22, I was a single mom with an infant and a 2-year-old. And I was raising my baby sister all by myself with no help from anyone. It took me 16 years to get my undergraduate degree. First, I got a community college degree in Spanish, and then I got my undergraduate from UT. I was a public school teacher and a foster mom, and then I went to law school so I could be an advocate for kids and families who were like me and my siblings. I practiced in 5 of the counties that the 3rd Court, where I currently serve, lived. And then I was a prosecutor at the DA's office at the same time as Holly Taylor. I've handled thousands of matters in court. I was appointed as an administrative law judge. And then I was in-house counsel for a large government department, had almost 500 employees. And then I ran for the 3rd Court, and I absolutely love the work that we do. And so that's kind of how I got to where I am. The reason I'm running for this seat is in October, you probably are aware of this, October 24th of 2025, the Supreme Court issued orders that said it is not a violation of the judicial canon of ethics for a judge to refuse to perform a marriage based on a deeply held religious belief. That was a direct attack on my LGBT community. I'm the first female gay justice to ever serve on an appellate court in Texas.
Oh, wow.
And it extends to other marginalized communities. Now remember, the authority to perform these civil ceremonies is given to judges by statute.
Mm-hmm.
And so they can purportedly, based on a deeply held religious belief, refuse to perform a marriage for an interracial couple, a couple of color, a Muslim couple, a Jewish couple, a Catholic couple.
Wow.
It's discriminatory in nature. It's a violation of our separation of church and state. And that is the reason that I started running for Chief Justice.
That's amazing. First of all, what a phenomenal story that you've got. We need to make sure we're telling that from the mountaintops and telling that story, because you really have proven what endurance looks like, right? And making a success out of yourself. I think that's a phenomenal story. I'm certainly blown away. This is the first time I've heard about it. But it's interesting to me that you ran for justice initially. What made you decide to do that?
To run for the Third Court of Appeals?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So when I was a prosecutor, I wrote appeals for cases that I tried, and I really, really loved the research and writing and really digging into the law. It's something that I fell in love with writing appeals. And so when the opportunity to run came up, I am the only female attorney in Texas out of 118,000 attorneys. I am state board certified in juvenile law and nationally certified in child welfare law. So the only attorney to hold those two, only female attorney to hold those two specializations. And in order to be board certified in juvenile law, you have to be an expert in criminal law and civil law. And surprisingly, the Supreme Court of Texas actually hears the appeals for juvenile law cases. And so I thought, with all the experience that I have, the well-rounded experience, it would be an amazing opportunity to serve on the third court. And when I ran, there's 24 counties that the third court covers. So that's my jurisdiction. And we were told, stick with Travis County. That's where all the votes are. And we said, you can't serve people that you don't see. And every county has a different culture. So we went out and knocked thousands of doors in all counties, put 40,000 miles on our vehicle. And we won. There were three of us in the primary. I had a runoff and a general opponent, and able to win. And like I said, the job is phenomenal. And now, for the first time in history, the Third Court of Appeals is all Democratic women.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's
wonderful.
Amazing.
Yes.
Well, but that work happens at the doors, right? And that work happens when you get out of the community. As Democrats, I think many times we fail our community, and not just Democrats, but politicians as a whole. I think we fail our communities when we don't reach out to them and represent them and ask for their vote. I think that's what people are looking for. They're looking for folks that are going to come to them and knock on their door and say, hey, can I have your vote? Right? I think there's no more powerful way to campaign than at the doorstep. The candidates that I've worked with in my work, I work on political campaigns, and that's the most powerful tool that you have, is knocking on doors. And so I think that's phenomenal that you did that, and that you did go beyond Travis County, because it's those rural counties that count and that matter across the state. What kind of response or feedback did you get at the doors from some of these folks that probably weren't used to seeing a politician knocking on their door?
Well, certainly not. And, the response, especially like you mentioned in the rural counties, was just amazing. And we got so many times, kind of to your point, so many times we knocked on the door and they've said, nobody's ever knocked on our door before.
Yep.
And I have a very quick, funny story to tell you. So the farthest west county that I serve is Sterling County. And when I did ran the numbers, there was one gentleman who had voted in the last two Democratic primaries in the entire county. One gentleman. Wow. And so I called Mr. Rodriguez twice. I went out to Sterling County, and he said, I'm going to get my girlfriend to vote for you. And I won Sterling County 100% with those two votes.
Amazing.
It was very fun. And we've already knocked on doors all over the state, and I'm very inspired by Holly Taylor too, and her 250 county run.
Yeah, that's amazing. When I ran for president of Texas Stonewall, that was one of my big things, is going out and knocking on doors and visiting with folks in the convention. I tell folks, you don't realize how big Texas is until you have to travel 3,000 miles just to walk in 5 gay pride parades.
Absolutely. Yes.
It's
yes.
massive. It's massive. So tell us about this position. I feel like we've gotten into your story, but tell us about the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. Why this role?
So the Chief Justice is uniquely positioned. So there are 9 justices on the Supreme Court, and they hear all manner of civil cases. I like to say that I think the most important cases that the Supreme Court hears are those that involve a child's life, constitutional rights, and civil rights. The Chief Justice, though, is also responsible for the administration of all of the courts in Texas, balancing dockets. And so it is a very important job. The Chief Justice appoints commissioners, manages all of these dockets. And so, like I said, I have experience leading large organizations and being in-house counsel for this very large government agency. And so I'm ready on day one to start making changes, and really also I'd love to have those orders rescinded, and then also expanding access to justice. I know our time is up, but
Yeah, you're good. Keep going.
Indigent defense funding has been slashed across the state. People's constitutional rights to an attorney is at risk. And so that is one of my priorities, is expanding access to justice and refunding our indigent defense around the state.
That's amazing to hear. I don't think people realize how important this bench is, and and the fact that we get to elect somebody to that bench. I mean, now more than ever, we have the ability. We saw, as you heard us talking a minute ago, about Taylor Remmett and how he flipped a reliably red seat. I mean, I really do believe that if we're going to flip Texas, this is the election to do so.
I keep hearing Tarrant County is the bellwether county, and I'm very excited about Taylor's win.
Well, and I was telling someone the other day, Tarrant County actually houses one of the larger, if not the largest, Stonewall Democrats chapter, which is
amazing.
Yeah, I love the folks down in Tarrant. And so there's definitely a lot of work that can be done. I love that you're out knocking on doors. Do you have a Democratic primary opponent?
I do have one Democratic primary opponent.
Okay. And so we're going to, hopefully you'll get through this election and get through the primary, especially if you're out there doing the work. That's what it takes.
Well, we've already been endorsed by 24 clubs, organizations, groups all across the state, including AFL-CIO, statewide Tejano Democrats, Texas Progressive Caucus, attorney groups, ideological groups, the caucus in Houston, HVAC. I mean, great. So we're excited and grateful.
Well, that is so exciting. I'm excited to just learn about your story and hear about what you've got going on. I certainly appreciate the work that you've done on behalf of our community. I tell you what, take a minute or two and give your closing statement, say goodnight, and then we'll be right back.
Oh, okay, great. So thank you all so much, Robert and the Texas Stonewall Democrats, for the opportunity to visit with you all. I like to, when I go and speak at groups and clubs, I like to share my mobile number. It is 512-587-8644. If you have any questions about me, my experience, my goals for this seat, please feel free to give me a call. I like I say, I've handed it now out to probably 18,000 people in my jurisdiction. Nobody ever calls me, but I would love it if you did. Thank you for the opportunity. I would be so honored to earn your vote in March.
Well, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to close out the show, but thank you, Justice Ellis. We look forward to talking to you some more and learning more about your race.
Thank you.
All right, Texas Stonewall. Well, we are rocking and rolling. We covered a lot of information in a very short amount of time. So I appreciate you all for joining us and staying with us this evening. We'll be having a town hall every single Sunday night from now until the March primary. So stay with us. If there's somebody you'd like to hear from, we'd love to hear from you. Feel free to email us at info@texasstonewall.com. If you don't have a Stonewall chapter in your area and you'd like to become a member of Texas Stonewall, you can go to texasstonewall.com. But for now, I'm Robert Vargas III. Thank you so much for the honor of joining me this evening and serving as president. And I look forward to seeing you all next Sunday. Take care.